Before you disconnected there, Ocean was asking if your charity has a website that we could. Oh, there it is. So
Yeah,
if
you
you
can
want
see right
to,
here. It's the Office of Homeless Services, City of Philadelphia. I think you just need to look up City of Philadelphia.
I found it. I posted it in the live chat.
perfect. So if you want to help with the homeless situation in Philadelphia, throw in a donation. Every little help that you can give adds up, so we can help the less fortunate, and that's very nice of you. I love that you do that work, Isa. It speaks volumes of you as a person. So, today, catalog of weird deaths. We have 9, and remember, the one of the things we do in this show is think of someone to dedicate this chat to. And today I'm going to ask of you a little additional task, which is think about which of these little stories that we're going to tell are your favorite. So you have 2 tasks. Think which story is your favorite and who would you like to dedicate this chat to. Okay, so weird deaths. Death has always a little bit of something ridiculous about it, and through the course of this show, we will collect new weird deaths to add to this catalog, and as time goes on and new people die, we will get more of these stories. So it's a never-ending cycle, which is great for the life of the show. So let's get right on it. The first story we are going to talk about today is the Pope Adriano IV. He was the only Englishman to become a pope because, as we all know, all English are heretics. So Adriano was at odds with Frederick Barbarossa, who you might know from history books, and the conflict lasted a really long time. It's not really relevant to the story, but one day in 1159, the Pope Adriano was coming back home after having pronounced a great sermon cursing and threatening Frederick Barbarossa with excommunication. During the stroll up to his residence, he stopped at a public fountain to drink some water. And as he drank water, a fly flew into his mouth and got stuck there. His doctors were notified immediately, but they couldn't help him, and the Pope died of asphyxiation. So make a mental note. First of the story, fly asphyxiation. It's weird. And the weirdest thing is that that this happens especially to a pope, like the vicar of Christ on earth. It's very weird that he could be undone by a fly. Like, how would God allow this, right? So I can imagine the Pope coming to the pearly gates and meeting Saint Peter, and how did you die? Like, I choked on a fly. It's like, okay, come on in. So that's our first story, Adriano IV. The second one, and I'm sorry, I'm butchering the name, and this is Aeschylus. He was a writer. He wrote about 90 tragedies, of which unfortunately only about 9 remain, or possibly 7. We don't really know, but there is some documentation that he wrote 90 tragedies. He was also a soldier. He was a part of the famous Battle of Marathon, where we all know the story. Soldier ran 42 kilometers in about 2 hours and a half, roughly. I can't remember the exact timing, but to let the army know that the Persians were coming. So Aeschylus fought in that war, and it is said that in his epitaph, he was more proud of having participated in the Battle of Marathon than all of his writings. So he was a prouder soldier than he was a writer. So the story of his death is as follows. Him being old already, which is, I mean, not really needed, because we know, since this is the anecdote of his death, that it was the last one, and we know he died of old age, so a little bit redundant there. But Aeschylus was taking a leisurely stroll when all of a sudden a tortoise fell on his head and he died. So what happens is that an eagle had caught a tortoise, and the way they eat these animals is that they take them up high and they drop them because, you know, tortoise shells are really hard. I do have a tortoise and they're really tough to open. So that's what they do. They take them up high and they drop them. And that's how they get into that precious meat inside the tortoise. Now, we're going to do a little public service announcement. If you live in a place where there's tortoises and eagles, and you want to take a stroll, you might want to take a turtle helmet just in case you don't get a tortoise fall on your head and liquidate you. So, mental note, tortoise to the head, second death. The next one, Archimedes, who you might all know, the inventor of the lever. Give me a lever and a place to stand, and I will move the earth. It's a very famous quote by Archimedes, and he's also the discoverer of the specific weight. Remember his well-known expression, eureka. Does anyone know what eureka means? It means I found it. It means I found it. And he ran out the bath naked. That's a very interesting story, which we might tell at some point in the show in the future. So the story of his death is as follows. Hannibal, the legendary general of Carthage, invaded the Italian countryside and the island of Sicily. Archimedes was at the time in Syracuse, and he was on the floor drawing some math in the sand. So maybe he was drawing two parallels crossed by two transversals. Let's say he was trying to prove to himself the Thales theorem, you know? So this soldier from Hannibal's army came up to him, and Archimedes talked back to the soldier, and the soldier just stabbed him like a shawarma. So, second note, death by soldier. We all know how soldiers have a grudge against theorems, and especially Thales theorems. They don't like it at all. So that's the third one of our deaths for today. The next one is Pausanias. He was a Spartan general and prince. He commanded the Greek army in the Battle of Plataea, and he was accused of treason. The story of why he was accused of treason is not really important, but when he was accused, he fled, and a contingent of the Spartan army followed him, and he found that hiding inside a temple was his best chance at survival, because at the time, killing anyone inside the temple was absolutely prohibited. So the Spartans were like, okay, what do? We can't kill him inside the temple. That would be sacrilege, and then the gods could come to us, and it will get ugly. So the chasers sealed him inside the temple, and Pausanias was no more. I didn't like this one too much because it's not really weird, but the next one I absolutely love. Pietro Aretino. Pietro Aretino was a great poet from Arezzo in the Republic of Florence, which is, as we know, modern-day Italy. He used to write spicy verses, naughty verses, let's say. And one day, his sister told him a dirty joke, and unfortunately, the chronicle I'm referencing today doesn't say which was the joke that his sister told him. It might have been the one about the imam, the Catholic priest, and the rabbi entering a brothel by mistake, or who knows, the one about the Japanese going to the pet store. I mean, it's so unlucky that we're missing that very specific piece of information. It would be very valuable to know what joke actually made this happen. But his sister told him a dirty joke. Pietro Aretino started laughing. He fell off his chair, broke his head, and died. So I don't know how you might want to catalog this. Maybe falling off a chair or dying. Sorry, or dying of laughter. I'd like to think that he died of laughter. And we have another PSA for you, kids watching at home. When someone is going to tell you a dirty joke, you might want to grab your turtle helmet that we got from the first death on this catalog, and just to make sure that you don't die from falling over. Or maybe just hear the joke standing up, because if you're standing up, you're probably not going to fall on the floor laughing, right? You know how if you're a comic book character or a fictional character, most people tend to bend backwards when they laugh. So another PSA, we're saving you from death. Remember that. The next one is Jean-Baptiste Lully, who was born in Florence and was naturalized French. Hence the name change. His actual name was Giovanni Battista Lully. He became a violinist first and then an orchestra director later in the court of Louis XIV. Jean-Baptiste, like the directors of the time, used to mark the beat with a staff, like a walking stick, like a big staff. And that's the way they used to do things pretty much until the death of him. So you know how directors get with the enthusiasm and the energy they put into directing the orchestra? Seems that he struck one of his feet with the staff, which led to an infection, which led to gangrene, which led to death.
Oh my.
So this is evidently the reason why orchestra directors today use a baton, because the worst that can happen is that you put your eye out with the baton and you might see why is there sort of like a pickle stuck to my baton, and why am I having a hard time reading the sheet music? But I mean, that would definitely beat dying from gangrene because you struck your foot with a staff. So make a mental note of this death for the question at the end of the show. Now, the next one. This is someone most of our American friends will know about this person, Alan Pinkerton. He was another one who died of gangrene. He was the creator of the Pinkerton National Detective Agency in Chicago. He discovered a conspiracy to assassinate Abraham Lincoln, and he was also behind the famous criminal Jesse James. So one day in 1889, Pinkerton tripped over and bit his tongue. He caught gangrene and died. So this is in very much contrast with how he lived his life. A man used to facing many dangers was undone by basically a little stone, or maybe I don't know what he tripped over, but he was undone basically by a mistake we all have regularly. But seems that he caught his tongue when he fell, and he probably said, I'll go to the doctor tomorrow if I'm hurting. You know how people get complacent and say, I'll leave that for tomorrow, and that became his undoing. So let me ask the panel, does any of you, when you're doing something hard, stick your tongue out? Like when you're focusing really hard, like, does
I
any
bite
of
my
you
lip.
do that?
No.
I always
do.
think of imagining like a neurosurgeon doing a really hard operation, going behind the face mask, going like for an
I
extra.
definitely do that. I wear a mask all day, and I definitely do that. I know I bite my lip all the time,
For
trying to
you
get a
know,
little piece of calculus, like, I'm really
it adds a
concentrating.
little bit. No one knows why, but it adds a little bit of extra
Oof.
focus when you're doing something like. So make a note, a mental note: tongue gangrene, Alan Pinkerton, and we have another PSA for you, kids. When you're about to trip, put your tongue back in your mouth. You don't want to die like Alan Pinkerton did. So, the next one, Enrique Granados. He was a great Spanish pianist and composer. He had a play in New York, so he took a transatlantic ship. And let me tell you that this was during the First World War. And on the way back, the ship was attacked with torpedoes by a German submarine. Enrique Granados was there just chilling, probably playing the piano. And the worst part was that the ship was fine. But Enrique Granados got so scared that he jumped overboard. And I can imagine him in the middle of the ocean seeing the ship fine after just being torpedoed and going away. So, yeah, he died. He drowned and he was never found again.
Damn.
So, let's say unjustified scare as the like the shorthanded for this weird death. And this is the last one, which I think I have my personal favorite of this list, but I think this one will be the one that most of you will take as the best one. This is Franz Reichelt. He was an Austrian tailor who lived in Paris, where around the year 1912, and Reichelt had invented a cape with which he assured one could fly like a bat. So, he requested authorization to jump off of the Eiffel Tower. First, he went to the owners of the tower because by that time, the Eiffel Tower, still had owners, like private owners, and they gave him the authorization, a little bit unwillingly, but with the caveat that he also needed a permit from the police and to sign a waiver, pretty much like you would do when you're doing anything risky. You know how elevators today, when having a staircase, the company is not responsible for whatever happens in the elevator. I can think of like having other ways, the waiver must have said, having other ways to die, the owners of the Eiffel Tower are not liable for standing from a jump with a cape. I like to think that's what the waiver said. So he went to the police, and amazingly, they gave him the authorization. Like, knock, 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 who's that? Yeah, it's Franz Reichelt. I want to jump off the Eiffel Tower. And they must have not believed him, because they did give him the authorization. So, 7 p.m. sharp on February 23rd, 1912, the tailor, with a cohort of fans and photographers from the press, went up to the first platform level in the Eiffel Tower. And I guess he didn't have full faith because he jumped from the first level and not the top, but who knows what was going through his mind. And he jumped, but the cape was not good, and the tailor was left as mashed potatoes on the floor. So, mental note, flawed cape for this death. And I have a final PSA for you. Kids, if you believe you can fly, don't jump off of something. Like, take off from the floor. That's your best way to attempt flight. That's the only way
I was
that
thinking
if
with your
it
little
fails,
float.
you will not leave the floor and you will be safe. So let's go around the panel and ask, this one's a little bit shorter than I was anticipating, but let's go around the panel and ask the two questions that I have for you today. Which one was the one you liked the most, and who would you like to dedicate this chat to? Ocean, take it away.
The person that died from laughter, I can't remember the name. Some count or something. I think.
Yes, he was Pietro Aretino.
Yeah. I'd like to dedicate it to the homeless, the unhomed people in Philadelphia.
Right. Earl?
I liked the bald guy that died from the turtle. I actually heard that. I read that just like last week. That's funny that you brought that one up. Yeah, that's super funny.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Poor guy, yeah.
And I will dedicate to I don't know, all the people that lost their teeth tonight.
Your professional vices coming through. Very good. Excellent. We made a bunch of PSAs, so let's make a final one. Hey, brush your teeth.
Floss your teeth.
And finally,
Because brushing
Ethan.
and not flossing is like washing your butt cheeks and missing the crack.
What's wrong with that?
Oh, that was hilarious. Isa, who?
That's what my
would you-
boyfriend does. He watches it.
Isa, I hope you're here still, and that you can come back and unmute yourself for a second. Which story did you like the most today, and who would you like to dedicate this to?
Easier.
Maybe he's busy.
So when I was a kid, we weren't supposed to jump off of buildings onto mattresses to try to fly with capes.
Yes.
It never worked. We always landed on the mattress.
Yes, pretty much.
So,
And that's why I said.
or a diving board, like the big tall ones, you jump off them and you try to fly, and it doesn't hurt too bad when you belly flop, but at least you got the experience of the Superman moment for like half a second.
Yeah, but every time someone attempts flight and they take off from a high place, it always invariably ends up in misfortune. So let's repeat the PSA. If you think you can fly, take off from the ground.
Yeah.
That's when you're safer.
There's examples of people that fell out of airplanes into like snowbanks and stuff like that and walked away. Like,
Yes, true.
those are cool stories too.
Yeah, those are
You're welcome, Robin.
They weren't trying to fly.
And I'm not gonna.
I've heard.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm not gonna be. Well, like Pinkerton, they're still not sure how he died, but that's one of the stories. It's gangrene.
Tripped over, bit his tongue.
That's one of the stories. There's like 3 different stories of how he died. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do tell.
So the contemporary findings that he died from a stroke or to malaria, which he contracted when he went to the southern United States. So he was probably down there in Louisiana or Texas or something.
Lots of mosquitoes.
Yeah, not Texas. Well, Houston, lots of mosquitoes. And he was working on a system to centralize all criminal identification records, such as a national database. And before he died in 1884. And they've since done that for the FBI, but he was working on that before we even had computers or anything. And they did have one before we had computers. You imagine doing that research. Like a data analysts were like really important then. Like they had to have ways to cross-check data. Like spreadsheets weren't on a computer they had to have like way to index the data to be able to find it in some reasonable period of time.
It would probably look like my organizational system.
Yeah.
I've got notebooks everywhere.
I do fly all the time though in my dreams.
I do too. I very frequently have flying dreams.
But I did see the Issa show up for a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Me too.
but looks like he's busy, so it's fine.
There it goes.
My favorite story, just like Girl, was the one about the turtle, the tortoise, because I love tortoises. The only pet I have right now is a tortoise,
Oh,
and
really?
I've had him for 20 years or something crazy like that.
Wow.
Yeah,
think
he's
it's-
loose around the house.
Is he?
Pees and poops everywhere. It's insane.
Have you ever seen it was, well, maybe not because it was an American show, but they did a Sherlock Holmes show maybe 10 years ago, and where Watson was Lucy Liu, and I forget what the Sherlock's name was, but anyway, they had through some craziness in the show, they end up having a turtle, and they make little tea cozies for his shell, like they knit them. So there's they have these little hats that have been knitted for this turtle, and he's running around and he's got a different little beanie on all the time. just a suggestion if you want to dusty up your turtle.
Yeah, I've seen some of those like crochet kind
Yep.
of suits for the turtles. They're lovely. I think we have Isa back. So Isa, which was your favorite story today, and who would you like to dedicate it to? Oh, guess we don't have it anymore. And finally, I would like to dedicate this to Romeo and Juliet. I don't know. It seems that they died for no reason, at least to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, those.
Yeah, everybody says it's such a romantic story, but it's
Yeah, it's not.
not so much.
It's like it's a romance that lasted 3 days, left a bunch of dead people, and they weren't together in the end. So I don't know what the appeal. Oh, I want a love like Romeo and Juliet. It's like, no, you don't.
Although it did spawn one of the best movies of the 90s.
Oh yeah. That one
Which one?
with Leo DiCaprio and
Mhm.
modern times and Shakespearean English.
Mhm.
Weird combination, but it worked.
Yeah, I
This
loved it.
Leonardo DiCaprio, how did he die?
Well, he was
He's
Romeo.
still alive
Oh, so he died on
In
the.
the, yeah.
in the movie. Yeah.
I was fucking with you. But somebody asked who Clement Vallandigham did. Apparently, he was an attorney who was trying to prove that somebody accidentally shot himself in a trial, and he accidentally shot himself and killed himself. So
Oh my! Like he was miming it and shot himself, or was he?
Very good. Thank you
awesome.
for your collaboration, Pedro, our good friend from Brazil. He's always hanging out around with us. We really appreciate you, buddy.
yeah, he
Very-
thought it
very
was
good.
unloaded. So
All right, we have Isa back. Before you go, Isa, which story did you like the most, and who would you like to dedicate it to? Oh,
he's got to go.
I'm
He's
sorry.
teasing us.
Yes.
This is a poem or like a nursery rhyme or something like that about that something like swallowed the fly, and then they swallowed the spider to catch the fly. They
Yep.
swallowed something to catch the spider, or something to catch
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Oh,
the Christmas thing where it just
Yes.
keeps going and going and going.
we have a song like that in Spanish, which is called "Get Out of There, Goaty Goaty," and it's basically I'll just sing just a tal, sal de ahí chivita chivita, sal de ahí de ese lugar, which means get out of there, goaty goaty. So then they go and call the stick so that they will take the goat out. So vamos a llamar al palo para que saque a la chiva. So the goat doesn't want to go out of there, and now the stick doesn't want to take the goat out of wherever she is. So now we're going to call out the fire to get out the stick, to get out the goat. And it goes like that forever. It's a very good nursery song that everyone, at least here in the South, everyone that speaks Spanish knows. Ah, that's funny. It just brought me back some really fond memories of that song. All right. Does any of you want to add anything? If the audience has any weird death they know, like Pedro did, and like I don't remember exactly who told us about the lawyer that killed himself trying to make like a reconstruction of a crime.
Oz?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Pedro mentioned it,
Pedro?
and
Okay. Oh,
I,
to look it up. Gotcha.
yeah, it was a lawyer, death by lawyer, lawyering.
Yeah.
But I just want to say that every life is valuable. Be cautious
Yes.
with what you do. Risk is everywhere. It doesn't mean you can't live your life, but just realize that your life could end right now, and treat every moment like it's important. You know, if you maintain your connections with your friends and family and stuff like that, because you never know what's going to happen the next day. They may not be around tomorrow, and you're going to miss those opportunities. And they're going to miss those opportunities with you if you're not around the next day. So,
Yeah.
I get, yeah. Mark did mention another guy, Thomas Midgley, but he had polio and he was bedridden and he was an engineer. He tried to create a pulley system, get him out of his bed, and he ended up getting caught up into it and strangling to death. So that's pretty sad, actually, to me. But polio and bedridden, and try to use his mechanical engineering skills while he has polio to create a lift to get out of bed, and he messed up.
Oh, look at this. What brings up a really good point. You know, I think it's the
That's
Cretan bull,
Yeah.
that it was basically a
Romans, I think.
hollow bronze bull with a mechanism, sort of like a trumpet, to amplify the sound of the person inside, and they put it over fire, and the guy invented this, and he was the first one to try it, because you know how people with a lot of power are basically a-holes.
That was the Romans, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, because the Romans were brutal.
Yeah, they
Would come up
were.
with something like that.
They
Awful
were.
way to die.
Yes.
Cooked.
And so for now, we're going to leave our catalog of death for this, but in a couple shows, and when we get a little bit more information, I'm going to keep on my research, and we will expand this catalog in the future. Now, for the next show, Wednesday, 9 p.m., we're going to try to keep it on a fixed schedule. If something comes up, we might move it. We might move it to either Tuesday or Thursday or potentially Friday. Depends on what goes around with our other shows. But the next one, I bumped it up because I was thinking of doing it a little bit later. It's going to be about Orpheus, the great singer. And this is another Greek myth. And the only reason I'm doing it now is because Isa brought it up on the last show. So I thought it was a good idea to bring it up next week. And then after that, the show after that, we're going to touch on the love stories of two caliphs, which are very interesting and very different. That one is a little bit less on the funny side and a little bit more on the reflexive side. So this is not all fun and games. We try to bring you a message, like Ocean said, life is precious, and the fact that we're laughing about it now doesn't mean that we don't respect life or we don't like life. It actually stands, at least from a point of view of mine, that I do laugh about the things that I take very seriously, I'm sorry. So yeah, you don't want to end up on this show's catalog of death, so be careful, live your life, but be careful not to die in a very weird way. So before we close out the show, let's go around, say whatever we have coming up, any message to our audience, and we're going to leave it up for tonight because I'm already running out of voice. We streamed for a long time today. So, Ocean, take it away.
January 27th, we have a 9,000 subs celebration. Like power level 9,000, I guess, is some like dragon junk thing.
Dragon Ball Z, I think it was. What?
Yes.
9,000?
I know what
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z is. I'm just playing around.
It's over 9,000!
So,
That was huge in my World of Warcraft days.
Yes.
so we have a skeptic feud that Justin has made up. That's a thing he was pushing for a while to answer the poll questions he had, survey questions, excuse me. And then we were going to have two teams, I guess, Team Ozian and Team Earl. So Team Earl will win because I forfeit. No, but we need team members. So if you could let us know, like in the Discord or something, tell us if you want to be on our
Come
team.
in.
You can come, or at least my team. Earl already has. Like everybody wants to be on her team.
I'll be your teammate. I'm not sure if I'm an addition or potentially a handicap, but yeah, I'll be on your team.
Well, I'm the handicap from the last show. Like I don't know, like people like this is like common sense stuff. I don't do too well. Like what people like prefer sometimes. Like
I tend to
We'll
think pretty
see.
abstractly, so I did okay the last one, but I missed some of them that I should have gotten.
so. Mark says you'll be on your team, Team Earl. So
Yeah,
yeah. See what I'm saying?
bring it on.
No one wants to be on my
I'm here
team.
for it.
They all want to be on Team Earl's team.
Yes, Mark.
I'll take everybody else because you're all precious to me.
My babies.
Oh, Robin, don't feel that way. I would definitely have you on my team. I don't think I told you this, but I absolutely love your accent in an honest way. I find it amazing. And yeah, I would definitely be on Team Robin also. So
Mark
Let's
goes, really?
go.
Damn it. Yeah, you're stuck with me now, bro.
Robin has an accent. It sounds American to me. Like
Southern. Yeah.
yeah, but she sounds a little bit different than you. It's not that closed as to that I can't understand it because I've encountered some people from the south of the US, which I really have to say, like, hold on, speak slowly because your accent makes it hard for me to understand you. But Robin,
slowly.
I love Robin's accent.
Southern people speak really slow.
sleep. You mean probably speak clearly, but like you go to Louisiana, parts of Alabama,
Yeah,
well,
they
part
talk
of
really
Alabama,
slow.
where I talk like this or something like
Yeah.
that.
Well, that's the Creole. Yeah.
The Creole, like
it rolls.
Louisiana.
They use those R's that.
Yeah, like we have a lot of French, Spanish influence, English, German, depending on the
Mhm.
part of the country you go to, like, because, you know, it's America.
That happens in Haiti. Haiti's official language is kind of the Creole, which is a mixture of all of this colonizers' language, and yeah, it's very hard to understand.
I'm super into learning about language and dialects and accents and stuff. And the most recent polling shows that Southern accents are dying.
Huh.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
it's Hollywood. Because our media we see is from California, so everybody's eventually going to speak Californian or something like that.
Californians, man.
But if we could just get Doctor Who in there, because you know Doctor Who's the best. Maybe we'll speak like the new Doctor.
I miss how they used
With
to
the-
speak. It was the transcontinental back in the
Yeah.
like 40s and 50s. I loved how they talked back then. It was so swanky.
We can all speak with a little bit of that gay twang, like the new Doctor is cool.
It's it's not exclusive to English. Globalization is taking away, even in Spanish. For example, if you take Mexico to Argentina, all of the countries that speak Spanish, they sound really different. But now this thing is kind of the last 10 years, I would say, uh, something called neutral Spanish is being used in the media. So everyone is trying to talk like everyone else. And a lot of these regional accents are kind of getting lost in the mix. So yeah, it's globalization is taking a little bit of the difference. And I do love accents. I do love hearing people with different ways of speaking, and I find them fascinating. There's some accents like I would could hear people going on like 2 hours. For example, I do love the British accent. I do love the Australian accent, and some more obscure like African people trying to speaking English. They sound very distinctive in a way, and I do appreciate that. And it's a shame
The
that
African
some of
language
that is,
where they click is very fascinating to me.
yeah.
I
And
went
maybe
to
Is a whole word.
the place where my son works to get drive through. He works at Wendy's, and I'm ordering food. He's like, I know what you like to drink. I'm like, how do you know who I am? Like,
Mhm.
well, you're John. No, I'm his dad.
Because you sounded the same.
I guess. So like,
Yeah.
it's cool, whatever.
I have a weird hybrid of because I grew up in the South, but my dad is from Toledo, Ohio, which has a very distinctive, like it's just in Toledo. And then my mom is from Michigan, so my vowels are completely butchered.
Hmm.
and
Funny how it all conglomerates together, amalgamations.
oh, my good buddy Crux says
You do have a
Max's
fabulous
accent is the best. Ah, thank you, buddy. I
You sound
love
so
your
fancy.
accent too.
I love it.
And a couple of days ago, someone heard me say a word in Spanish, and they were flabbergasted by my rolling the R's. And I was like, yeah, dude, it's Spanish. We roll the R's. We say Roberto.
Mhm.
And people find that really hard. It's one of the hardest sounds to make for English speakers. The hard R, like desarrollo, people have a hard time doing that. And then we also have, particularly in Montevideo and Buenos Aires, we have what is called the Rio de la Plata accent, which is the river that divides Argentina and Uruguay.
Mhm.
And for example, people from Spain mock us and say, ese caballo que come yuyo es tuyo, because the Y sound and the double L sound, they pronounce as caballo,
Yeah,
right? They
yeah.
make very different. So they mock us because we say caballo. And I mean, the Spanish, they're the creators of the language. So, I mean, we can't really push back on them because it's their language.
You just made it better,
Yes, of
made
course.
it your own.
Well,
And
now,
everyone likes the Rio de la Plata accent is very distinctive. If you hear someone like someone from Colombia or Mexico and you hear one of us speaking, you can tell immediately that we're speaking Spanish, but the accents are so different. It's pretty amazing. Accents in general are very interesting field of study. So before you go, any message for the audience? Do you have anything coming up, Earl? Thank you for coming.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I completely forgot to invite you to the last one, but I make a standing invitation. Anytime you want to drop by this show, you are more than welcome. It's been a pleasure having you today. Isa, I'm sorry you couldn't participate more, but you're doing something truly worthy, truly valuable. So thank you for your contribution to making this a better world, Isa. You're one of my favorite people. And I said this I think yesterday while you were debating, Dr. J and Isa are two of my favorite theists ever. They're so reasonable, they're so agreeable, they're so nice that if every theist was like them, I wouldn't have even considered becoming sort of a vocal atheist because I wouldn't have a problem with the way they view the world. They do have their beliefs, but they don't try to impose it on anyone. They don't try to legislate other people's lives based on what they believe. So, Dr. J, if you get to listen to this, and Isa, you are awesome guys. I love you. So,
Agreed.
A little bit of housekeeping. Next show, Wednesday, 9 p.m., we are having Orpheus, the great musician. And also check out all of the shows that we have planned for Matters Now. We already have Ocean debating, Nadir. On is the Quran scientific. I think that's the tagline of the debate. And we will have an after show here hosted by Justin. I'll probably be around because I'm always around. And do we have anything else big coming up? My memory is not that good.
Yeah, I mentioned it. The 9,000 sub show on
Yes.
in 3 days.
And our show with Tapioca Weasel.
on Sunday.
Woohoo!
Tapioca Weasel and Maya.
They're wonderful people too.
Yep.
We're
Just
having a double show, so they'll be on here, and then we'll go over there and hang out.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Very nice. It's good. It's so good that
Double feature.
yeah, it's so good that Ocean's going over to FTFE and MC Tune, and we're having some other people come here. It's a very good community that. I'm just getting notified by the production team, so he might be modding the debate, so I might be hosting the after show. You got it, buddy. It's no biggie. I loved hosting the shows. It was so much fun. I was a bit scared the one I hosted that I was alone, and I said like, I was thinking to myself, how am I going to host a full show on my own? Like, this is going to be a disaster. But then we had our lovely audience join us, and it's always good that there's someone there around. We really appreciate you guys. Remember to like and subscribe, follow, share if you would like to. If you think that someone would like today's show about death, if you have someone with a very dark sense of humor, share it with them. Bring them
Become
over
a channel
to,
member.
Yes, bring them over to the community, consider becoming a channel member, and do all of the things that we typically do. So now that I'm done with my electronic panhandling, we can close the show away. Thank you for being here. We love you all.